Hello, Andrew here. Today, let's talk a bit about inflation. So, for many people, this is a topic that is quite concerning for them. Some people think that now inflation is under control, that it's much lower than it is. Actually, what we have to think about is the real inflation versus the official figures. So, what is the difference? The official figures give some inflation which has been calculated as a ratio of some numbers. It's often designed to appear less than the reality. Of course, what you have to consider is that inflation doesn't really depend on a country or a currency, but more on individual, on your typical spending. It depends on the city even. So it might be different for everybody. But when talking about inflation in general, it's useful to think about what are the main costs for the typical person. So for me, the main inflation, how it makes sense, is to think about it as some ratio perhaps equal, 50 to 50, of housing prices, both in terms of value of houses and also in rental, and on food. So, in most of the Western world, actually, if you think about it from that perspective, the inflation would be probably between 10 and 15% per year in most cities. So, if you look back to before the pandemic, before COVID, to say end of 2019, then whatever salary or income or as a business you had or salary as an employee, you should have double than what you had back then. That would be the same money now. So what you see is you don't have housing crisis, you don't have prices of food or prices of houses going crazy up. It's actually the same prices. It's just that you are being paid less. So why is that the case? And is that really true? Well, if you look at the prices of houses in terms of measured in gold, for example, over a long horizon of time, you can see that it's been mostly flat. So gold is interesting because often people feel like, oh, it doesn't actually really follow with inflation because sometimes it goes up and down, sometimes it's flat for a while we have price increases and then it jumps up. So that's true on shorter time scales, and then it makes these corrections. But on a longer time scale of many years, then it follows inflation quite well. If you compare money supply, so money created from money printing, if you compare the stock market, if you compare the prices of real estate, if you compare the price of gold, you can see that it all looks quite similar. So it's actually just money supply being created and going to all these things, and then the prices go up and you have inflation. So let's take an example. Uh, for example, if you are in the UK, you use the currency the British pound. What is actually the origin of that word? The pound. It sounds like a unit of weight. Actually, it is. That is the point. The full name is pound sterling. So, and that is a unit of weight. And the sterling refers to sterling silver. So originally the idea was that this is the price of 1 pound of sterling silver. So that would be worth nowadays about 280 pounds. So that's how far the British currency has collapsed. It's even more dramatic if you look at gold. So this is the gold sovereign. It actually doesn't say on it, but it had a face value of 1 pound. So this was actually a legal tender. This one is from the time of Queen Victoria. It was a legal tender on at that time, and the gold content of this coin now is worth over 500 pounds. That's how far it has collapsed since the UK went off the gold standard. It's very similar in many other countries. Even the Swiss franc is not immune from that. There is the famous 20 Swiss franc gold coins, which are now worth over 500 Swiss francs in terms of the gold value. So uh, what you have to ask yourself is, if you are an employee, why is your salary not increasing with inflation? Should that be automatic? It's, after all, just the same money that was increased. If you are a business owner, you have the freedom to ask for higher prices. You're probably doing that already. If you're in real estate business, you're increasing the rent every year with inflation. So, what is the solution to all this? Is to use a currency that is not inflationary. It doesn't mean that you have to receive money in gold coins or in Bitcoin, but you can set your prices that way. So I know that there are some people who have been fixing their prices in Bitcoin. I don't think that's such a great idea, or that it works so well for a lot of reasons, at least not yet. But you could fix your prices in gold. So then you don't have to readjust your prices every time. Of course, you can accept any kind of payment you want, but you people will get the idea that what real money is, how much the inflation is, when they see when they have to recalculate your prices. So this is what I would do.